Hello, everybody. This is Mickey Mouse with CartoonMarinePrinters.com. Today is Monday, April 28th, 2025. Um, we are going to be talking about, we're going to have a full breakdown of a central pivot range, and I am joined by KerMixAlot. What you going to say, hey?
Heidi ho.
Yeah, so we're just going to be talking about the central pivot range, what it does, what it's for, how to use it, how it's calculated, and then all the wisdom that KerMixAlot has using it. Um, so, without further ado, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
All right, got the baton. All right, so I have been using pivot points for almost 5 years now, and the reason I got into them is because I learned that institutions would use pivot points on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange for determining uh, buy and sell levels, support, and resistance. And as time went on, I've discovered more and more I really like using the central pivot range of the pivot points. Now, I will be mostly focused on using traditional style of pivot points. There are 6 styles. Some could argue that traditional and standard are pretty much the same formula. So some would say there's 5 styles, some say 6, but nevertheless, I'm going to focus on traditional central pivot range. Now, with pivot points outside of DeMark, you usually have 5 resistance points above the range, central pivot range, and 5 resistant points below. We actually made an indicator that gives you 6, so it goes above and beyond. Now with DeMark, I believe they just use 1 resistance above and 1 support below. But again, we're focused on traditional, and we're just going to focus on the central pivot range, which consists of the very center pivot with the range top and the range bottom. All right, and I will gladly show you an example of that, and that is right here with the blue. This blue line is the very central pivot, and this would be considered the CPRT, the top, and CPRB bottom. Okay. Now I'm not going to be able to go through all of this in this video, but there are 7 ways to read a 2-day relationship, and I'll just tell you what this one is. This is a bullish. This is a bullish bias because you have this day's central pivot range above the last. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is focus on some lists that I make, and I'm going to now they for the CPR hot list, it basically had to meet 3 conditions to filter out, and it's when the daily is very narrow and the weekly is very narrow and they're close together. And I'll show you what the list looked like. This is as
Sorry,
of
did you want to
yesterday.
read the
Oh yeah, let me read the explanation of central pivot range. This is from Chat GPT, and I already kind of went over this. The pivot point is the average of the high, low, and close of the previous period. If we're looking at daily, it's of the previous day, and it's to help with market trend, potential support and resistance zones, and entry and exit points as well. So again, you have the pivot point, the bottom central, right, which is the average of the high and the low from the previous period, and the top central, which is the average of the pivot and the bottom central. These three levels form a zone, the CPR, and price action around the zone helps traders to assess the market sentiment. Now here is the formula. Given the previous days, it's all based off the high, low, and close, which a lot of traders know how important that is in trading. To calculate the pivot point, here is the formula. Pivot equals the high plus the low plus close divided by 3. Bottom central, the high plus the low divided by 2. And the top central is the pivot plus the bottom central divided by 2. Now, as I was saying, the bullish bias is if the price opens above the CPR and stays above. It indicates bullish sentiment. Bearish is if the price opens below the CPR and stays below. It's suggested to be bearish sentiment. Now, I'm going to go...
Real quick, the reason why I wanted you to read this is because for me, the way that my brain works, seeing the actual mathematical formula as it's written, I don't know why, but it makes my brain click to understand how it's calculated, what it's there for, and it allows me to better perform when using the tool.
Absolutely. Yeah, some people can identify better by looking at the formula, and some are a little bit more visual too, so I'll be providing both. And then if it's a sideways, price stays within the CPR, you're just going to kind of count on it being a sideways trend for the day. So that's that, and now we're going to get into the visual aspect of it. Okay, so let me go through my list, and then I'll look up some examples. Okay, so the first one, this is the hot list. Okay, so out of all 450 coins on Bybit, these two coins, this is as of yesterday, so I'll have to show you yesterday's CPR. BNB and DBR met 3 conditions, which I explained earlier is the narrow daily, the narrow weekly, and both the daily and weekly are very close to each other. And what this does, it provides extremely strong either support or resistance. So if you are on the upside of it, you're definitely looking for longs, and vice versa. All right, so I'll show you BNB and DBR and what this will look like. All right, so let's just do DBR. Okay. And we're already getting some strong movement as of today. But here is the visual of what I'm looking for. Very narrow daily, which is the blue box, and a very narrow weekly, which is the dotted lines here. And they're right on top of each other. So you could see the reaction of the price. I mean, this went earlier today when this shot up off of the CPR. Let's take a look at the percentage move within. I'm only on the 5-minute chart, so this is within 4 hours. You had like a 7% move on this, so it's pretty good. So that's DBR, and because the weekly is so narrow, I would expect if this stays bullish, I would expect this to move up very nicely over the next few days, and that's what I'm looking for. I have a small long on it. My stop will be below both of the CPRs. All right, so let's look at BNB. All right. So you have this pattern on the CPR, which is a bullish bias, and you have the weekly and the daily close together. Now they're not right on top of each other, so it's going to probably create a little bit more chop, and that was why I chose DBR over BNB. But if the market is staying strong, BNB could move up very nicely. It has that potential. Now, if I zoom out, kind of see the dailies right on top of it, right here on the weekly. All right, so let me get into, and if I post these lists, when I do hot lists, they're gonna be with a red flag, red for hot. You can see BNB and DBR. I started putting some other ones that were either the day before or today's. So let me get back into the list. All right, so the next thing I want to look at is distance to narrow. Okay, so I did not do daily narrow lists, but I did do a narrow weekly. So I will be posting these lists, and I'll either, if I post a Google sheet like this, I'll probably will say this is the narrow weekly CPR, or the color, if I post my trading view list for weekly narrow, will be green. All right, and I'll show you that over here. So these guys right here are the narrow weekly. Now this doesn't have to change for an entire week. These will stay green on my trading view list for the entire week, and I will definitely be keeping an eye on them because these are very likely to have some nice trending moves for 1 to 3 days long. So if I see a good entry signal for long or short on these, I'm going to be very interested in it because I know I can probably get a nice few day move out of it. So that is the narrow weekly. And when I do post the Google Sheets, you'll get to see. Hey buddy, how you doing? When I post the spreadsheets, you're going to see this column here. This is the actual width of the CPR. And this is for weekly. So 0.01 is extremely narrow. That's fill. Let me take a look at that on TradingView here. And RT, if you have any questions while we're going, feel free to speak up. Oh. All right, so okay. All right, so here is Phil. Look at that weekly. This is a range, guys. Right? I mean, it's 0.01, so yeah, obviously. And look at this thing can move. I mean, this is a Dino coin, and I mean, you got like a 6% move up, 5% move down, and then it went back up, and now, you know, it's up like 7%.
I know
right now.
This is a little off topic too, but Phil, it's got a pretty interesting use case in its function. It's essentially like storage. So
Storage,
yeah, they're using it for like purchasing storage in the cloud.
Awesome. All right, so I'm on the stream right now, so I did not catch this, but if I saw this move on par, knowing how narrow this weekly CPR is, I would have taken a shot here. And I would have already taken a TP because that was a nice, 4% move, 3% move on that. Just to let you guys know why I'm just going to be focusing on my flagged list for trades. So that's weekly narrow. So this is 0.1. Let's go for a little bit wider. So I went and kind of picked out. This is number 25 on the big list. 31, just because I like these coins. Let's look at ETC with a 0.12%. Etc. etc. All right. Yeah, and you could see that the moves on these coins they're pretty violent. And when you get these, like right here was a very clear par signal, which uses the RSI with that nice deep V. Also, you have another one here. That is, you could argue that's a bullish divergence or hidden bullish divergence. That was also a play right off of the CPR. Now, this is 0.1%, and I usually will not look at anything past 0.3. That's pretty much my limit for this method that I've been using lately. So that's what 0.12% looks like on the weekly. And the daily is wide, so I would expect like this sideways chop. Now, let me show you what I'd be looking for on ETC. Okay. All right. This is tomorrow, which is going to be, that's what, 23 hours from now. So I have no idea how wide this is going to be. But if we're getting at the close right here tomorrow, let's say price comes down. Well, if it comes down that far, this is going to widen out. But let's say it just kind of consolidates like this, and we have a very narrow CPR right here, and you're going to have a bullish setup. Just kind of show you it's going to be, this is going to be how your CPRs are looking, right? Knowing that the weekly is very narrow, if I got a buy signal in here based off of my momentum indicator, I'm definitely going to take it. All right. So that is narrow weekly. And tier 2 is when coins meet 2 of the 3 conditions. So it's not quite as hot as the 3 out of 3, the CPR hot list, but they're still good nonetheless. And there's quite a few of them.
Your page isn't rendering for me.
It's not.
No, it's just I could see the Chrome with all the tabs, but the spreadsheet isn't.
Oh, you know what? Sorry, I went off of it.
It's working now.
Yeah, but I got to get back open 428. There we go. Okay. It was because I went to a different tab. All right, so again, here's the tier 2. This meets 2 of the 3 conditions. All good potential coins to look at for some solid, strong moves. And this is a little bit, it's a little bit overwhelming because it's like 40 coins. So I'm probably going to focus on just more of the narrow right here, like the top 10 or 12 or 15. I'll be looking at these. All right, and then if I don't like the way any look or setting up, then I'll come down the list a little bit more. But I'm generally going to try to stick with the most narrow ones. All right, so this is, again, that's 2 out of 3. I call it the tier 2, and that will be, I have not decided on a color for that. Distance is weekly narrow, daily narrow, red, blue, green, yellow, purple. What I decide I'm going to try to stick with. And let's see here. Okay, that's going to be pink. All right. I don't have any set up now. And that's going to be tier 2 is going to be the pink. So when you see the pink flags, that means it's 2 out of 3 conditions. Strong, but not as strong as the hot list, which are 3 out of 3. And then there's one more. It's called distance to narrow. So basically, it's when price opens up above or below the CPR. Now, the reason I look at those is because there is a magnetic tendency for price to come back and touch the CPR when the price opens below here, I'll show you. All right, so here I'm actually interested in the larger number, um, alpaca. Let's take a look at that, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. And now alpaca is getting delisted, so I'm not able to trade it on my exchange. And a lot of times, these coins that get delisted and have these extreme moves, you're going to see them open up very far from the CPR, but they can be very good trades. So let's take a look at alpaca. And I think alpaca has just had a major exit pump, knowing that they're getting delisted. A lot of the big boys probably were pumping it up to exit out of it. Okay, so here on the 5 minute, I'm gonna just open up the price chart. Okay, so right here is where alpaca opened up, right? It also has a pretty narrow CPR. But let's take a look at the measure tool, right? So the
Do you
open price
do
was
you want
right
to show
here.
everybody on the screen which CPR is which?
Oh, you mean just type it in?
No, just point it out.
Oh, okay, sure. All right, well, as of right now, take a look at the percentage. From where the price opened to the bottom of the CPR was about 13% away. Okay. Um, but as to what Mickey was saying, this dotted, shaded, this is the weekly CPR, which is pretty narrow.
The white one,
And then this is the daily CPR,
and that's the turquoise heel.
the turquoise. Yeah. All right. So what I'm looking at is price opened up 13% away and under the CPR. Now, most of the time, not always, but most of the time, price is going to come back to the CPR. And that's exactly what happened. All right. So as soon as you got a buy signal, let's take a look at my indicator. All right. Now the 4 hour was coming down, so I probably might have been a little bit hesitant. But nonetheless, the 1530 did give me a buy signal here, and the 1 hour was flat, so it could have been a justified trade. And actually, right here, everything was going up: the 15, the 30, the 60, and the 4 hour. Okay, a little bit ugly, but they were all going up, and I am very sure there's a high probability the price is going to come back to the CPR. Now, when I finally got the buy signal, we lost about 5% of that 13% move. But hey, who's going to complain about 8% in an hour, right? At 10x. So you definitely got that, and you could have TP'd half out, put the other half at break even or just under this swing here, and you're good to go. And that just kept going. And let's see what that ended up getting after that buy signal. All right, it never got stopped out, and it did peak out at with a 38% move. All right, so that would have paid handsomely, and that is why I like when price opens way away from the CPR. Now here, it's saying that it was below. Now let's look at BMT. It opened 5% above. So let's take a look at BMT.
Now, do you expect price to on the weekly CPR? Do you expect price to come back to that CPR?
On alpaca?
Yeah. Well, pretty much any coin, but yeah.
Well, I'll treat alpaca like it's just any coin, but it's getting delisted, so I have. It's a little bit harder to know. But do I expect it to come back? Well, after it's kind of like molested it right here. So I don't think I mean, if again, this is assuming it's a regular coin that it's not getting delisted. I wouldn't bank on it for this week. You know. Now, obviously, if it, I mean, it filled the VWAP gap. It's above. I mean, it's getting way up there, but you got the previous day high here and the previous week here. But as far as just CPRs are concerned, I mean, this was your chance, and I've been noticing this a lot, that a lot of times your best trade, a lot of times on these coins, are the new weekly candle right at the start. Um, there's going to be a lot of, I could show you a lot of examples where the first hour of the new week was the time to get in. Now, do you go long or short? That's the question. But, here we did get a long signal. It wasn't pretty, but you definitely had a bull div here on the 1530. I mean, look at the price. Boom, boom. All right, so you did have the bull div, and you could have just had that be your stop loss, and you get in anywhere in here in the first hour of trading of the week. So I don't, yeah. As of right now, I don't really know.
How long do you think that the weekly CPR is valid? Is it just for
uh,
that week?
for the entire week, yeah.
Okay.
Now, previous CPRs can have play. Now, so like what you want to consider here, let me open this up, and I'm gonna take off the monthly right now. Okay, we don't really need the trader package right now. Okay, there, I took off the monthly. We can even take that off. We can even take that off. Okay, that's even better. All right, so I'm looking at this really far distance from this weekly to this weekly. And this one was also very narrow too. Let's look at the previous week. I mean, look at that, right? This would have been on the hot list right here. Narrow daily, narrow weekly, very close together. You had your buy signal in here. And what did we end up getting on that one? Just a casual 500% move. All right, so this is a far distance, and it's already had such an incredible move that, yeah, maybe it comes up, makes a double top or goes higher. I don't know, but right now I know that if you're in, you just put stops below these swings and just let it ride for right now. I mean, this is a bullish setup on the daily. So even if it pulls back a little bit, it may kind of swing down. It looks like it's already starting to. It may swing down, come down and touch the central pivot, and then turn up. And then if this is narrow tomorrow, that's where you're going to see that next wave come in.
Touch the daily central pivot, just to be clear.
Yeah, the daily central pivot right here. All right. That is alpaca, and
BMT was next. Sorry, I didn't mean to
BMT.
derail you.
No, thank you. Let's do it.
BMT, that sounds like a sandwich.
I know. I every time I look at it, I think of a BLT.
Yeah.
I get a little bit hungry. All right. Ooh, I kind of like this. This looks like if it comes up and then kind of does a retest, this is going to be a good spot, I think.
Do you want to explain what
This
those two
might
yellow lines are?
Oh, this is just the golden pocket for this time frame. For the 5 minute, this is the golden pocket. I don't really need it right now. But yeah. But there's not a lot going on. This could be a good shot. Anyway, so let's take a look at. Sorry, I got sidetracked because it looks pretty good to me. All right, so price opened right here. All right, let me zoom in. All right, and we'll get the measure tool. Okay, so price opened right here, creating a version CPR. Right, and so I know there's a very good chance that's going to come back and touch.
You want to explain what a version CPR is?
A version CPR is when price opens on the new daily candle and it's above or below the CPR and it's not touching it. So right here, price is not, it's outside of the CPR. So as soon as this happened, at this point right here, this CPR is a version CPR because price is not touching right here.
And that's on the weekly and the daily. There's
You're
two
right.
CPRs stacked right there that are version until it's
So you have a double version. Yep.
Yeah.
That's what you call. Sounds like a nice cocktail, right? But you have a double version, and so you basically wait for the short signal. And I'm just curious where. All right, so par, you got 4 hour. Okay, 4 hours starting to dip here, right? Got to be careful going short while the 1 hour is going up. And then right here, the 1 hour started to dip. And the 1530 right there was your short signal on this candle. Right, and that's a nice bearish engulfing. Now, if you got the very bottom of the candle, right, you're not going to always get a full move from the far end of the version price action to the CPR. But let's say you got in right here. That's, that's 5% in one damn candle in 5 minutes. Right? And what you do is you're going to TP right when it comes into the CPR. So that's like a 5-6% move. You TP one, stop right here over this candle. And then you would have gotten, here, let's see how much more. Because price came quickly to the other side of the CPR. And you had plenty of chance to get out. You had like a good half hour to get out of that trade at the bottom of the CPR at a 14% move in, literally 20 minutes. So that is why I like focusing on prices that open above or below that CPR, because sometimes they turn back to it quickly. And I think everything that we've looked at, it's come back to it pretty quick, right, Mickey?
Yeah.
All right, let's look at one in the middle here. Let's look at FLM, and then we'll look at Melania, just to kind of see what their price action was.
Oh,
and then
you pulled your screen. I don't see trading view. It disappeared.
Hold on.
Yeah, you opened up, you grabbed the tab and you pulled it away.
Yeah, I gotta reopen it. Sorry. I opened it in another page. Can you see it now opening up?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so FLM. We'll look at a couple more, and then I think that'll close things up here.
I do think we should do like a synopsis, like just summarizing everything.
Okay. All right, so here. Okay, so here's an example where price did not come back to the CPR. All right, FLM. It opened right here. I think it said in the list at about 3%. Yeah, 3.85%.
And you mean the daily CPR, just to be clear.
Yes. All of these, I'm focusing on where price opens above or below the daily CPR. We could look at price opening above and below the weekly, but I think that could be another episode. But you have price open here, right? With the 4 hours coming down and down. Now, right here, you have a buy signal, and it worked, but it did not carry you all the way back to the CPR. But you have a clear short signal right here, because at this point, you have a bear div, you have the 1 hour coming down.
Can you draw the bear div visually?
Absolutely. And you have the 4 hour coming down. So you have no business in staying in a long at this point here. But I'll show you the bear div. Kind of a hidden, because price did kind of go down a little bit, but here price came, or the momentum high came screaming down. The much lower high there. So this is a hidden bear div. And at the same time, you also have your higher time frames confluence. You have the 1 hour, and I actually have it at 280 minutes, but we're calling it the 4 hour momentum. That's also drifting down at that point, right? So if you took this, right, you're in here at 0.0348. This is an example of where it did not do what you thought it might do, but you could still make a few bucks on it. And let's see, you got in here at that 5 minute. I usually enter on 5 minute candle closes. And let's say right here, things started to turn around right there. All right, 2%. Right, not ideal. Right, it was a failure, but you could still make money on it. It was a 2% move, and it took 4 hours to do so. Although this buy signal came at 2 a.m., so realistically, I would have not got into this. So that was a... Oh, and you know what? Today also is a virgin. Right? Now, if this 4 hour starts to flatten out, I mean, we're already kind of getting a bull div on the 1 hour and the 15 and the 30. I mean, this is probably about 1.2%. So I'm not like jumping the gun to take this. And I don't really like FLM because it's very thinly traded. One thing I will kind of keep an eye on is the volume. Let's take a look at FLM. It has a lot of volume, but if it's showing the volume of the units, it may not transfer to a lot of money. But I don't really like the way it trades on the chart. So let's look at Melania. Melania. Okay, so we're looking at over here. This is the new candle. We're looking at yesterday's. Okay, now here, price opened up a few percent below the daily, which is the turquoise, and you have the weekly right there stacked on top of it. Okay, so here's the buy signal right around here. Not the best. It was kind of late, unless you're getting in here. This was a bull div on the 1530. This was a buy signal right here on the 1530. 4 hour was flat enough, and it's oversold enough that I can justify taking that. And let's see if you got in. Let's even say right here, and right here is where you have the bear div. That's a 4.8% move. It did not satisfy the daily version, but it definitely came and touched the weekly version. All right, so here's your TP right here. Or if you didn't get out there, then you would definitely get out when you have the bear div confirmed, and that would have been on this candle here, losing about 1% off of that 6% that you could have made. And today has a very narrow CPR. It may just come up. Very likely, this might come up and touch the previous day. It's still a version. It still needs to be touched at some point, just like FVGs need to be filled eventually. It's the same concept as fair value gaps filling. Maybe 1 day, 2 days, 3 days later. So that's what I look for when I have the distance to the CPR. And for distance to a daily, I will have over here in the trading view list, I'll have the yellow flag. All right, so there's alpaca right there. There's BMT. And then for distance from the weekly will be purple. I have not put that list in yet. And these are all from yesterday. I haven't even done today's, but I will. If I don't do it tonight, I'll do it first thing in the morning, like 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'll put it up in the group. And if you guys see some good trades off of that, let me know.
Let's
But
do one more coin, and then let's do close out with a summary.
sure. Do you have one, or just want me to pick one more from the list?
Let's do hype.
All right, let's look at hype. I think that's Mickey's coin for 2025.
I'm staking right now on it.
Good. All right. So this is yesterday. This is the day before. All right. So, narrow CPR tells us usually between 24 and 48 hours you're going to get a nice strong move, and I will look at from here the nice buy signal right there. 15, 30, and 60 all came down together and V'd out right here. So that was also a version CPR on hype. Okay, you see right here how it opened below it? Anyway, from your buy signal to the CPR, that was 1.9%. There's nothing wrong with taking a TP at 19% at 10x, and that ended up going up 11.5%. Would you consider that a pretty strong trending move, Mickey?
Yeah.
Okay, so this narrow CPR did its job, telling you that price contracted here and will soon expand, and that's what happened here. You have this expansion. Now, sometimes the expansion is not straight from the line up. It's gonna, have that. This had that manipulation move, and then you had the expansion move.
I'm kind of curious. Do you want to throw on our astronauts indicator? This
Sure.
market smasher.
Yeah. What time frame now?
You're on the 5 minute. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, I was just looking at the.
Here's the 15. All right, look, narrow.
And
You
there's
had
the
squeeze right
there.
here.
Yep.
Right.
But that's not an A
And
plus. The
sometime-
one before it was an A plus.
Okay. Oh, because it had the gray zone, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this was a good spot right here.
Yeah, I was just curious. Go ahead.
Okay. So anyway, that opened up a version CPR on the weekly and the daily, and price, as soon as you had that buy signal, it came back and it filled the daily and the weekly version right there. So that's it.
And the CPRs
So,
are going up. What is the future? You have the future projected CPR on for the weekly? Looks like
no.
just the daily.
You know what? Let's see. Next pivot. Weekly. Let's do white. I mean, it's a little early to look at next week. It's Monday.
Yeah, I know. I'm curious.
I mean, it's like looking at the daily in the first hour of the new day. You know,
Yeah.
it could change so much, but it's definitely like stepping. It's they're stepping up. I'll tell you what, if hype comes down like this, that could be a good get.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's look at a trend line, and why don't and if you agree, let's put some alerts. All right. Well, I guess there's nothing. I mean, of course, I'm on a low time frame, but let's
Yeah.
do something like that, right? And then look for this action, right? It's gonna whatever. Boom! Right to the central pivot. Look at that, right there. And that's at noon tomorrow. I mean, we're just speculating. But if you got a good par or your trader package or your
Any momentum.
money mixer signal right here, that could be a nice long. So I'm gonna put an alert around here. Oh shoot, where's my oh, it's because I have the draw tool. I want the there it is. I'm gonna set some alerts in this area. I'll try to let you know when I get them too. And then you can look at your stuff. But that might be a good trade. Right around there. All right, so as far as the wrap up, you want to help me with the idea on that?
Yeah. So start from like the beginning of the episode, and then just give like a brief synopsis. What is a CPR? How do you most use it? And any final like words of advice, wisdom?
Okay. So to recap, the central pivot range is a indicator to identify key price levels for intraday and short-term trading, and it definitely helps to figure out the market trend, potential support and resistance zones, and entry and exit points. I personally will use my par indicator for exits, but yeah, if you're coming up on a strong pivot, you can also use that too for exiting, especially if you get a nice if you're in nice profit. CPR is central pivot range, and it has 3 levels. And the first is the center, the pivot point. It's the average of high, low, and close from the previous period, right? Which you see right here. The bottom central is the bottom of the range, and that's the average of the high and low from the previous period. And the top central is the average of the pivot and the bottom central. And these 3 levels form the zone, the CPR, and this helps traders to assess market trend and
Where do
sentiment.
you see CPRs used elsewhere? Like you mentioned somewhere else.
Well, pivot points have been used on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange for decades. Now you don't really have floor traders. I mean, that was mainly in like the 80s and 90s, 2000. But they use those for decades, and I'm sure institutions are still using them, and they seem to respect them quite a bit. And there's you're gonna have pivot points. The pivot point crowd and the Fibonacci crowd kind of argue over who's better, but they all work. It's just whatever you get used to, I think, is what works best for each individual. So here are the formulas, and I just went over I already said the formulas up here. Here's the formulas laid out with the pivot point, the bottom central, top central, and how it's used. Bullish bias when price opens above the CPR and stays above. Okay, so you notice on our examples how we saw a lot of them price turn right back up to the CPR. Well, that got out of bearish bias really quick, and then the ones that opened above and then came right back down, again, that invalidated the uh, bullish bias very quick too. And when price is inside the CPR, it's it's the concept of without change there will be no change. You will expect it to stay in until it breaks out, right? Um, so that's where a lot of consolidation happens is within the central pivot range because that is your kind of happy medium of price between the high and low of the previous day.
And this can be equated to using things like fixed range volume profiles and stuff. You'll see that when the price squeezes going sideways, you'll see the fixed range do the similar thing that the CPR does. It'll bounce within that area. Also, what was the other one? Yeah. I'm
And
tired.
what was the other question you have, Mickey, to help me wrap this up?
Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean,
Yeah. And I will I'm happy to do another episode where we talk about the 2-day relationship. I think we do have one already, but I'm happy to do it again.
yeah,
2-day relationship of the CPRs, and then you can the same with the 2-day. You can do the 2-week, right? So like right here, you have a bullish weekly CPR. How this CPR opened above the prior one, right? So hype, and as you saw with my little draw here, that I am interested in continuing to long this, and the 4-hour momentum is just, I mean, it's chopping, but it's trending up, right? Until that gets way up here, I'm interested in longing this as long, but only after consolidations. If we're already getting high on the 4-hour, the 8-hour, then I want to have a consolidation first. That's what I'm looking for on hype.
awesome. Well, yeah, let's go
So,
ahead and call it here. Yeah. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Make sure to go to cartoonmoneyprinters.com, sign up, click the Start Now button. You'll onboard with whoop.com. If you sign up with a card, you will get a 1-month free trial subscription. Come check us out. We have a whole bunch of indicators and some good discussions that happen inside the group. So, all right, we'll talk to you all. Have a happy and safe week trading.
take care, guys.